Alright, guys, welcome to the Addendum podcast for season 13, sessions 1 and 2. As many of you know, yesterday I did make a mistake and I did miss two nations, Tunis and Venice. Both our nations are still relevant and still very important in Europe, and they do have an effect on the game, and they actually did dictate some of the wars that happened last session. We will also, if we have time and if the dialogue leads us that way, we will deep dive into some of the wars that we saw in Europe, that we saw between Muscovy, Ottomans, just the entire blocks. I don't know about all of them, and this is one of the reasons why it sucks that I don't have somebody record like a co-host from Europe, but I will definitely have that for next time. Anyways, so let's dive into Venice. So Venice is still a trade republic. It is still making money. It's actually making a lot of money. It's making about 30 ducats from trade. He's focusing a lot of that money into building up his own country, into filling out idea sets. What's very interesting about Venice is the Venice did take a defensive as a military idea, which is very, very good. But he's also now focusing on trade, which makes it very interesting because he will have 3 merchants unlocked from the trade ideas, and also he probably might take quantity next or something else that will give him more merchants and more trade power. But Venice, as of right now, isn't generating a significant amount of money compared to the Ottomans or maybe the Castilians. However, early to mid game, Venice will be a power broker in terms of how much money the country generates and how much expenditure it has. So it's going to have a big amount of money, a big volume, to be given out as subsidies and be given out in accordance to allocated across all of Europe. So Venice is going to become a very important player. What's very interesting for me is that, for example, Venice is not using the trade cities as we discussed this from last time. Venice could be using these cities, which he's not, and this makes me wonder why. For example, if he releases some of these states, they're a wrong religion, for example, and it really is Venice, you really don't want too many of the cities. But you can release not too many cities, too many provinces, because you start losing merchant republic along the way. So let me go into the trade regions. For example, this belongs to Venice. It's part of this state, so why not release it as a vassal? Why is it not name taken? Got it. Okay, release it like that, and all these places will be giving you extra. Will be giving you extra trade power. Sorry about that. We'll be giving you extra trade power, and will be actually having positive effect on these regions because they give, I think, production bonus. Yeah, there it is. They will give production bonuses to everything here, and eventually they will be also giving trade power to Venice and boosting it all the way. Because unless he's trying to do something crazy, these islands are not as important as the home node, and Venice, in theory, could just expand into Milan or into Florence and take these cities and cede all this shit land to city-states, right? Or guest trading republics. I don't remember Palantiri doing this last time he played Venice. And I don't remember what the logic is, and he'll probably explain it to us in chat. But I think you're really missing out on this because Portugal, when Portugal also became it's not a Venetian government, but he became a trade empire or trade republic. I forgot what he became. He set up these cities all along the way, and he just started pulling so much trade. And especially Venice is filling out trade ideas. He should do this and maybe create some sort of a trade deal with the Ottomans, where the Ottomans gives up part of this trade, maybe the Alexandria trade, for these 3.51 ducats and sends it all to Venice. Venice will generate more money and can send some of the subsidies back to the Ottomans, right? And this will free up the Ottomani merchant to maybe actually go into Crimea and pull some of the trade from Crimea this way. So this merchant for Ottomans wouldn't be necessary if he gives trade to the Venetians. Yes, you are empowering the Venetians. You are giving them more, I guess, responsibility within your block. But at the same time, both parties would prosper, and it will, make them so much closer to one another. Also, as Venice, I know he has a little bit of loans. He's also worried about the Spanish, and this will secure you Ottomans more money, and Venice will give you more money, but it also secure your alliance because both of you make money in the process. My second point about this, why it might not happen, because as we know, Great again played the Mamluks last season. He did fantastic up to the middle of the game. But eventually he turned on his allies, all his allies, but he turned on the Venice ally because the Venice ally wasn't giving him enough subs, and he took this area for himself. Some say it was a good move, some others would say it's a bad move, but in the end, I think he has that bad experience of trusting people because Timurids and him had a falling out, him and Venice had a falling out, him and Sweden had a falling out, and then, Spain and him him and I had a falling out. So he had a lot of these bad experiences. So I really think that this season Ottomans is going to try to act as a sole alliance guy, maybe work a little bit with the Mughals. But I would really like to see Venice becoming important in that kind of a relationship and just having more interconnected Europe. Because in my opinion, if Venice doesn't get some sort of help from the Ottomans, he could always switch sides eventually and become the money bank for Europe. So if Europe decides to defend Venice, Venice could in theory pull a lot of trade from Constantinople and a lot of trade from Alexandria. All he needs to do is just build a bigger fleet. He's over a little bit right now, but he has 30 galleys. But Venice, at the end of his ideas, also has, where is that galley combat ability? He already has the galley combat ability filled out. And if he takes the naval doctrine of galley combat ability, no one's going to be able to sink his galleys at all. Especially maybe if he goes even maritime or naval ideas. No one's going to be able to sink those galleys right there. Galley combat ability. He's going to go naval perhaps next. So Venice could rule the Mediterranean for the longest time, and it's a very important ally in my book to have. So like Austria should be really working with Venice, France should be working with Venice, and maybe even the Castilians, because as long as Venice exists, whoever basically has Venice as an ally will control the Mediterranean throughout the game, because GB, until mid to late game, unless he takes naval ideas, maritime and all that, will be unable to combat Venice in the Mediterranean. So Mediterranean, you will avoid pirates, you will have complete freedom of transporting troops all over the Mediterranean as long as Venice is alive. So whoever wants to control the Mediterranean really does want to have Venice. So Venice, I think, will play a wonderful role. I think Plantieri is great at diplomacy, and we will see. And he has really evolved as a player in terms of skill and in terms of planning for the future and in terms of diplomacy. So I think Venice could out-diplo a lot of the countries around him. And this is not as a saying like, oh, beware of it. No, it's good. It's how players evolve. And it's always easy to negotiate with him. So this is a fantastic thing, and I really hope to see Venice flourish in the block of Castile, Ottoman, and Mughal triumvirate. I'm not going to say they're a triumvirate, because triumvirate means they're all together as the three giants of the world. Yes. Anyways, next to Tunis. So Tunis. My boy Tunis declared war on the Ottomans. Him and Spain lost, so there was a big war here. So when the Ottomans were basically fighting and participating in the Uzbek war against Muscovy. So this was a big, huge war, right? And it was interesting to observe from Mawar because all I could see is blue flames, and I was making fun of it because we were fighting like pretender rebels, and there's like a big war happening. So Castile and Tunis declared on the Ottomans. I'm not going to say that was the best move, but it did show Ottoman's true colors. Is when that attack happened, the Ottoman player decided right away to peace out Muscovy. With Muscovy to peace out Poland. He didn't transfer any of the forts, and he just completely left the war, right? And that is not a very good thing to do. There's a lot of things that you can do in this situation. For example, you can, if this is occupied, you can retreat half of your troops, retreat from this front, and retreat into Anatolia because you do have forts. One of the forts is Felipe. And as Ottoman troops, especially at Tech 9, there's absolutely no way they can break through Felipe if you have half of their forces. Because most of the time they will have -1 or -2 rolls, and you have Ottoman troops. You can't do that. But instead he pieced out. And I think that move diplomatically was a bad one. But let's go back to the Tunis War. So Ottomans pieces out, and then he decides to show his entire force going this way. So he took Tripoli, he took a lot of stuff, he took all of this, right? He has a claim on this, but all of this was Tunisian land, and that's going to be a lot of prestige that he's going to lose. Ouch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 80 prestige. So Tunis is going to lose 80 prestige on this because I don't think he's going to recover from the Ottomans. But the point being is that was there even a fort? I don't know if the Ottomans had a fort or not, but this fort is very important for the Ottomans to have. Like, none of this is really important for the Ottomans. This fort is very important for the Ottomans, and maybe these two, have these two forts for the Ottomans. Because if they want to go back into the Ottomans, they have to siege all this land. And you basically need to keep a lot of troops there for reinforcements. 3 dev province, 6 dev province, 3 dev province, 3 dev province. So you're going to stack 20, 30,000 in every single province. But for you to reinforce faster, you got to stack a lot more troops here if they want to engage. While the Ottomans have a lot of space here to keep the troops basically, without suffering attrition. So Ottomans already controls this. There's really nothing here besides, money. But this land is absolute shit for him. So I'm kind of confused about this buffer zone. I would have punished Tunis in a little bit different way. I've taken max money, trade power, and merchants. I would have taken the merchants as well. But instead land was taken. I guess that was a power move there for him. But anyways, so Tunis tried to attack the Ottomans. They probably lost. I didn't look at all battles, but they lost, as you can see. But they probably lost pretty bad because the Ottomans are at Tech 9, even at Tech 8. They went defensive. Tunis went offensive. They had more morale. Castile went defensive as well. But Castile doesn't have the H bonus. So it doesn't matter as much. Also, there's this colonist that he's not really using. I wonder why. You can literally use the colonist, put him right here, right? And the colonist will have a 22% chance of growth every year. But again, if you do encourage development and put him there, he will have now a 24% chance to improve this region every single year. Or you can actually put it in your state. You can put it right here. Your capital state, or right there, and improve something. So use the colonists, guys. If you have the ideas, use the colonists. Yes, it's taking up a little bit of your income, but it's okay. You can give these guys this land, and automatically your budget will improve. Maybe actually not paying, for example, for this fort. This is a shitty fort. I would even get rid of this fort. There's absolutely no point to this fort. And yeah, so he's just integrating right now. This is going to be a huge buff for him, and I'm super glad that Tunis went into there. Tunisian ideas by themselves are not the best. You can rate stuff, and I don't know he's been rating stuff because majority of the stuff, majority of the land is owned by Castile, and you can't raid the Ottomans because it's Muslims. So Tunis, I guess because of politics, he just had to align himself with Castile. Is understandable, but he's not raiding anything, so he's not really using his raid coast ability as much as he can in theory. So, but we'll see. Anyways, so he is annexing air. Very interesting move. He's using that. Why? Oh, diplomatic reputation. Unfortunate. Okay, not too bad. Algerians, Berber. It's not accepted culture. Okay, I mean, it's fine. You get only a minus 15% bonus, but eventually it does really add up in the long run. And so with air, he's not gonna get any gold mine, is he? No, there's no gold mines there for him. But a lot of grain, which will basically give him more force limit. He's got to convert a lot of the land, but it's already converted. Is he converting this land though? No, he's not. I think you gotta convert this land. So including subject, this is his land that he needs to convert. But if you include subject, you can convert for the subjects. He's running a level 2 advisor, so he's going for the offensive expansionist ideas for the 15% morale. Very interesting combo, I think, here, because offensive gives you 5% discipline, bigger force limit, also really good generals, and it gives you 5 morale of armies here, and then for the combination of these two, you will get idea policy of morale of armies. It's an interesting military idea, but as you see, Tunis took this idea, and besides this one, you really, maybe this one, you really don't use anything as Tunis unless you're gonna like start colonizing and actually using the colonists effectively. This idea group isn't very good 90% of the game because I have a theory he took these two ideas just for the policy. So you're taking this idea just to have the 15% morale bonus, which is kind of fine. But if you think about it in the long run, a lot of people decide to take military idea groups or combination of idea groups for the policies. But if you really think about it, you don't use policies 95% of the time. Unless you're great again and you're always in war because people deck you or you want to be decked, you really don't use the policies. And this same mistake, I think, personally was made by Arabia last season. He could have done much better if he didn't take offensive expansion, but if he took like offensive economic, for example. I think offensive is a great policy, but offensive economic, just because economic gives you a tax modifier for the entire game, construction costs, so every 10th building is free for you. It gives you more states, but most importantly, it gives you development costs, right? Or you can go industrial, which gives you production bonus, gives you more manpower, gives you the same autonomy change as does his current expansion idea, but also it gives you a goods produced modifier, and it gives you domestic trade power. It gives you power to the Dhimmi, but also the policies are very good with defensive artillery combat ability. Not as good as the 10 or 15%, but whatever. You just have other policies that are fantastic. 95% of the time you don't use policies. What else does it give you? Or, for example, innovative gives you prestige decay, fill out ideas, technology cost reduction minus 10%, institution embracement cost minus 10, which is huge. Possible advisor, institution spread is huge. This is a really great policy. More leaders and an advisor cost, so you can basically run all your advisors at 25% discount. I do not agree of taking expansion ideas for the point of the morale, and I really think in this situation it was done for the point of morale, and I think it's kind of stupid, to be honest with you guys. So I don't agree with this choice because it was just done for the morale. Unfortunate. But yeah, So Tunis and Venice were finally covered. I will publish this for you guys. In terms of the big wars that happened in Europe, I mean, Muscovy died like a champ going down. I didn't see the defenders, but yeah, Muscovy is gone. He is now in Brazil. Tag Porta. Brazil is there. I really don't think it should be covered. There's nothing to cover in Brazil. It's a colonial nation that should not be going outside of its colonial regions. Okay, so colonial Brazil, he can do this, right? But he can't go outside of it. So we'll see how that rule stays in effect. But I actually see him making a deal, either rebelling or something else happening. But colonial Brazil can be very strong because there's a lot of gold provinces here, and he plays his cards right. Colonial Brazil can become a powerhouse, and eventually he will need to ask for independence or be independent. That's JP now, so Muscovy player switched. In terms of Muscovy, very unfortunate that the country died, but I guess it was kind of expected with him not getting the gold mine early on, maybe not doing diplomacy with Nibber. But the thing is, it's kind of hard, I think, to do diplomacy with the Polish player because he himself said he is not the best in diplomacy. And I hope that people really do improve this season because they find themselves in a situation where, like, for example, Poland it's a really great player, very strong player. But right now, he is on the downside, right? He's on his hind legs, I'm going to say that, and he really needs to do diplomacy because he's a great country builder. He's a great military general, but he's not very good at diplomacy. And countries really need to learn to do diplomacy and not just throw their hands in there and say I give up. Because when you learn how to do diplomacy, your game will improve as well because it'll give you more options on what to do. Maybe make riskier choices. So yeah. Anyways, so this was Propaganda Podcast Addendum. Not going to really go into the Muscovy War. It was big. I didn't get to see it. But Muscovy lost. Uzbek exploded. Ottomans comes out on top. Poland has tons of debt. So they're really the main power in the season is the... in Europe, at least, it's the Ottomans. In India, it is the Mughals. And I guess the upcoming power is Castile when Castile forms Spain and gets his... Torsios for 90% 30 shock. He's going to be an absolute monster as well. But we will see what the Ottomans will do in Europe. It really hinges a lot on one player, and it usually does around this stage of the game. So it's very, very important. Anyways, guys, thank you so much. Please enjoy the addendum.